Tamara, Campbell, whoa! So now I'm here to learn a lot. Yes, it's a wish list.
I am Tamara. I am from Little Rock, Arkansas. I work for Today's Office, which is a steel case dealer. We also have a location in Springdale. Arkansas is pretty far away from here. A little bit about me. I have been using CET since 2014 when I was hired at Today's Office. I was not taught how to do furniture in CAD. I didn't know how to do it. I was told that I wasn't allowed to learn. So I had to find a way to do everything in CET. I didn't have anything to fall back on. I needed to do this. I had to find a way to do it. So that is my journey with CET. I know CAD from being an interior designer, but furniture in CAD, I still don't know how to do. These are my favorite things. My kids, my girls. This is my team at Today's Office. And then my planner, which I have already taken notes on all day, all week. First thing I'm going to say, don't be afraid to ask questions. That means here today, I've actually learned things from when I gave this presentation an hour ago. Things I didn't know, ask questions, things that maybe I didn't know you didn't know. But then beyond that, you can ask questions to CET. So seriously, send the issues to help desk. If you've got a problem, and this is something I really push at my dealership, is if you've got an issue, don't just kind of figure your workaround and then move on. Like, send it in. Like, you may not be the only one, send it in. Is it a feature request? You say, hey, maybe if it could just do this. Just send the feature request. You can do it right from CET. Like, let's get velocity going into making these changes and really making this program the best it can be to work the way we really need it to. But if they don't know we want it to do something, they can't make that change. Chat support, and then the forum. So there's a lot of people here today, and there's not a lot of activity on those forums. So I'm going to show you where to get those, to know your resources. CET website. So this is your dashboard when you sign into the My Configura webpage, where you have your support, which has videos, the academy, which has webinars for free, and then the forum where you can go and ask questions. It's where you get people to say, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to do this, how do you do it? That's exactly what that's for. And there's a pro tip: if you sign up for a webinar, you get put into a briefcase. After you're done with the webinar, they will load the video into that briefcase. So say you could go to a webinar, but the rest of your team couldn't. You can still go into that briefcase, download it, and then share with your team. Then there are also all the videos on their website. I like to use this when there is times where I'm like, I know this can do this, I don't remember how to do it. I just go watch a quick video. I mean, I've been using it for 5 years and I still have to go and watch a video every once in a while. So just know that those are there. They're tagged if you're trying to figure out on the side, on the right-hand side, you're like, I know it's this, it's the 2D view, or it's the paper view, it's things like this. You can go and find those videos. Your CET resources are not just directly on that website. You can get to all of this from your CET. You can contact support, send in a feature request, a material request, report an issue, ignore the report issue, always report issue with attached drawing. And I always like to screenshot what the error is, what the problem is, even if it's a feature request, like, hey, this is what I'm doing so you understand a little better. So they're trying to recreate it when you send in a problem. If you screen cap it, they really see what it was. Even if maybe they can't recreate it, they might be able to better help you figure out if it was something internally, if it was your computer, if it was that file is corrupted, something like that. And then CET has a YouTube page. Hope you guys know that because all these videos will be on the YouTube. So I've watched the conference from years before, and that's actually how I found some very useful information. So that's only the last couple of years, but it's very helpful. because on the website you can get all the documents, but these videos go with it. So it's the open conversation like we're going to be having today when you've got questions. Those little things don't get put into a presentation usually, so you can watch the video. F1 on your key binding, on your keypad, opens up your user manual, and it's the most up-to-date one. So you don't have to save one on your server, you don't have to save one on your desktop. It's F1, it always opens. It's the most up-to-date one. Know your F1. And then again, Project Matrix resources are within CET on the Project Matrix tab. You scroll to the bottom. These quick link resources are right there. They also have a YouTube. I recommend everybody go watch this one. This is one that I have used, I don't know how many times. I've watched this video several times because it's only 6 minutes long, but it's really helpful if your symbol doesn't quite look right. Maybe it's not loaded. You send in that say, hey, I sent it in to let you know that the 3D is not coming in, but maybe I have this 3D CAD and I need to fix it for my renderings now. Send the issue in so they know to fix it, but then this is a workaround so that you can get your drawings going. Or maybe there's a certain option on something. For example, there's a JSI bookcase that has a beautiful bent shelf. The CAD that comes in from Project Matrix doesn't show the bent shelf even when I option in the bent shelf. But there's a CAD that has the bent shelf. This shows you how to replace it to where you still have all of your background information and all your pricing in there, but it looks right. Each extension has their own help desk. I mainly work with Steelcase. Steelcase has an email I can email directly, but I still like to send things to CET because sometimes it's a core CET problem and sometimes it's an extension problem. And sometimes I don't quite know where that area is. CET knows where that line is and they'll just forward it on. And usually I'll get a call from the Smart Tools help desk saying, hey, can I get on your computer and walk me through what you were doing and we'll fix it. This is a problem with us. So, did you apply a scheme or finishes or something not quite looking right? You go from 2D to 3D and something's not right. Before you do a clean restart, I like to hit F5. Just refresh everything. Then if that doesn't work, then it's the clean restart. So does anybody get this when they import a CAD plan? Yep. So this is what you need to know to make that go away. It makes your CAD plan not smart anymore. It basically says, I just want this to be lines. This is one of the first things I learned, and I believe it was from the Project Matrix help desk that helped me with this because my base plan files were massive. This is the one I use almost every time I get a drawing. I do this before I even try to import it.
Where do you do that?
In AutoCAD.
You type that command.
That command. And it'll pop up and it'll ask where you want to save it. It usually saves it where your CAD plan is already saved, but it puts AEC in front of it, or ACAD, put something else in front of it. You can rename it as cleaned up or filed down.
Is that a shortcut to like overkill and purge and it's like everything all at once? Or is it just different?
It's just different. It's mainly when you have a smart thing. So like if you're in that kind of CAD plan where you're getting this, if you go into that CAD plan and you move a door, it automatically shortens all the lines and all that stuff. When it was translating over, I kept getting big boxes. So I couldn't tell which way the door was swinging. I couldn't tell if it was a window or a door. So this was the command that I needed. Because the A&D firms in my area export kind of the same way, so I kept having the same problem. There is a class for more advanced CAD tips tomorrow. FYI, if you need more CAD tips. I actually learned all of these this morning. Austin was fantastic this morning, and these are more commands. Unfortunately, I can't show you how they work because this is a new laptop and I don't actually have CAD yet. But this is just something that once you know what it is, you can go research it. So these are more commands to really help you get that file size down on your base plans. All right. And then this is what I wish I would have known when I first started. These are the things that need to be set up before you draw anything. Melissa is doing a class on these type of files, but I also have a lot of files, as we've been drawing in CET at my company for 7 years now or so, that going back in, you can still apply all of these things before you continue to draw, and it will make all of those changes moving forward. We have a lot of master files. Keybindings, I hope everybody's using those and realizing how helpful they are on your keyboard. There are pre-made keybindings. There are some that you can set up on your own. You can delete one if you're accidentally doing a keybinding and you don't mean to. I use T to bring up the tagging dialog box. I use W to bring up my Project Matrix catalog browser box, so I don't have to go to that tab and then click it. It just brings it right up. I use Alt-M to open the materials lab, so I don't, again, have to go to that tab, click on that tool. It's a key binding. I pretty much used everything on the left side of my keyboard so that I'm using my mouse to draw and my left hand to put in commands. But you can customize this to you. I do recommend a little bit of consistency among your dealership. I don't know how many times I've gone to another of my designer's desk and tried to hit a command on their keyboard and it doesn't work. But it's also helpful just if you're using it and you know how it's helping you, to let everybody in your dealership, because everybody works a little differently. Just sharing information. All right, bookmarks in Project Matrix. Again, I just hit W and it pulls up my box. I didn't have to go to that tab or anything. I just hit W. And I can go to bookmarks, and you can bookmark things that you go into all the time. For example, I put JSI Vision Laminate. This takes me straight there. I don't have to go to JSI. I don't have to go to Vision. I don't have to click Laminate. That just saved me 3 clicks. There's also a wood guest chair that's not in our extension because it's an older product, but I use it all the time because it's a standard for a customer of ours. It's a bookmark, so it goes straight there. I don't have to go into the catalog. The catalogs are so drill down. These are shortcuts. So when you're in an area that you want to, say I wanted to do Ciento high back with an enclosed arm, you can click bookmark, add to bookmarks. Name it whatever you want. You can also, for those extra OCD, you can organize your bookmarks into folders. And it can be as drilled down as this, or it can be as high level as this. You can still add it to bookmarks. It's just shortcuts. If you notice yourself doing something over and over and over again, there's usually a shortcut that somebody else has found or has been built into the program. Are there any questions about the bookmarks? Okay. Seed files. So there's seed drawings, which is basically kind of like a master drawing where you start there and everything's already pre-built into it. But we also have a lot of seed files, which are individual files. So there are settings that you can save in so many different locations. So in your calculation view, the way your article looks, you can save that setting and reuse it. You can set it as your default. I've reset my default. There were a lot of columns in there I didn't ever need to see, like the cubic feet. I don't need any of that. The material lab has been huge for my office because we really have been pushing, even if we're not selecting carpet and maybe we don't know, we still apply carpet. We apply paint, we apply artwork. All of that kind of stuff is saved as materials, as seed files, as SketchUp files, favorites, things like that. Anything, again, that you reuse over and over and over again, there's a way to save that. I have an article view that looks almost exactly like what our quote looks like when it comes out of our quoting system. The columns are in the same order, it shows the pricing, it shows the subtotal. That way we can really look at the bill of materials before it even touches our quote system. You can also set up branding and consistency within your dealership. Everybody's using the same font, it's at the same size. It's either italics or bold or not. It really creates a consistency, especially when you have multiple designers. But a lot of this seems like it's a lot to set up at first, but it's not if you set up a framework on a way to, like all the folders and subfolders, there's even a little map that CET has on their website on what they recommend it looks like. You can start there if you just don't know how to do something like that. But then as you're working, just have everybody save things. You had to create this certain kind of paper space for this project, just save it. If it's something that you think you'll reuse later or on a different drawing, same customer, or hey, this is a different size and you had to reformat your title block and all that stuff, just save it. And then you start to build up over time and all of a sudden you have a full library and everybody's working faster and faster and faster. If anybody watched my live interview with Kelsey on the Facebook page, I said tagging was my favorite, and it really is. It's my favorite feature of CET. A lot of people like rendering. Tagging is my favorite, and you will see why. So this is a project I worked on last year. You can see some of it. So I had a lot of tagging. So there's a lot of phases here. And then I also had some things I had done before I need to undo. Sorry, guys. We'll pretend I undid that. So this is my general markings, which is every single room. So these are my room numbers. General markings is a steel case thing, but it can be titled whatever you want, the general markings. But basically what you can do is you can create a category to tag it however you want. I like to tag absolutely no questions on everything I do by room. And then I've tagged by phase, which means by quote. That's really how I high-level filter on a quote, is by phase. I work with a customer that's a repeat customer. We keep all their master files. So I also have everything separate, like categorized and tagged by department. So I know this is PT/OT. I know that PICU's over here. I know this is respiratory from a big picture. So when they call and say, hey, I need a chair over in respiratory, I know where I'm going. And then even if you're working on a bid and you get those bid spec books that have GC01, GC02, T01, you can tag them that way. So you can then tag this T01, and then you can tag every T01 chair. But then you can also go into your calc view, you can filter to see just that one. And if for some reason you're going, and you can double check yourself, you can expand all of those spec details out and make sure that every T01 chair is exactly the same. Because the system's not going to catch if a fabric's wrong, if a caster's wrong, something like that. This is a good way to help you check to make sure everything is accurate.
So you have all of your offices in your general markings, and then you're ordering by phase or whatever. Those general markings automatically come in, even if you have a subsection by when you create your quote? Like how?
When, with Steelcase, when you push to Hedberg, it's going to do whatever is the highest level sorting. So I still have the highest level sorting as general markings. I filter by phase, and then I'll title that article view by that phase. And then what I have also done on large projects, when it comes to, you see all the other stuff I did, you see here where it's got an order number here, a quote or order number. I was going out on maternity leave and I needed a way for everybody to look at everything in every single room on every phase when the punch list was being done, and they didn't have to touch my drawing. So it created a master file that was sorted by room number so somebody could go in and then they could see what order that was on. This was a design build project, which means they were building before the design was finished. So our phases got to be a mess. And sometimes you have to help keep up with all of that, and CET can really help you do that, and you can use tagging. And there is also a quick helpful tip. If you have put something in like a room number, Don't add a description after to start. Just put in a room number, and when you have that selected and you hit new tag, it will automatically increment. So then you can just hit new tag 27 times, let it fill up. Then you can go in and add that, hey, well, maybe not. Sorry, guys. You can say that this is the exam room. But if you do that and then you hit new tag, it's going to do exam 1. So just put the number first that you need to increment. Just keep going and going and going and going. And I tag every room. That's a best practice for me because I've gone back in and put a bookcase in a closet that didn't have tagging, and then I couldn't figure out where that bookcase was coming from on my article view. I tag every room. Every room gets a tag. Even if it says not used, I still know there's nothing in that room. All right. On what you can already kind of see here, you can also use color coding, which can be done either by phase, or you can do your own color coding if you're just maybe on a large project trying to show your installers, this is the left side of the building, we're going to dedicate this as red, this one's green, just as kind of a map to help people figure their way out around. And then you can click on what you have selected and you can click fill background. And then when you're in a paper space, with your visibility settings here, it's not alphabetical, hold on, part tagging. Now you have a key plan for your installers to know what part of the building is green, what part is red, that kind of thing. You cannot click this to be black and white. That makes that go away. This is more just as a key plan. So you can color code it however you want. You can get creative. And then you can connect those tags with visibility. So if you're doing phasing and you're trying to not show somebody something that's not in this phase so that they're not confused when something's missing, you can filter that out in your visibility settings. You can filter it to where you don't see that phase. Because it's kind of under categories, you have it as a phase. You can filter those things out in your visibility settings. The visibility settings now are very advanced. I would recommend going and watching all the videos that you can on it because you can do so much with it now. Paper view, all right. Over here, Paper Manager, where you can open this up and it's really easy to open, to turn on and turn off pages. I also title everything. So this helps me when I'm just trying to find one particular room that somebody has a question about. I can go straight to that page. And I know what my installers are looking at. And I know I may or may not have put on there, or I can reprint a page, or hey, we made changes to this room. Somebody put a thermostat in the middle of your overhead, you gotta move it. It's just this one page, and I don't have to go searching for that one page. So I title everything, as you can see.
Where was the Paper Manager?
Right here. You can also get to it down here, I think, Paper Manager. But it's really handy, it's right here, and you can open it. But if you're in your paper right here and you say, I want to rename this, you can go up here and rename it as you're working along. But this Paper Manager really helps when you're trying to print certain things. So like you can see here that we had certain manufacturers coming in on different dates. So I have an install plan for just them. It's just dots on a plan. But that doesn't need to be in my full packet because those are coming on a different truck 2 weeks later. So they're their own plans. So I can turn them on and off really easily here. And it's also good when you're in your print view, which may or may not come. There it goes. You don't even have to go to the paper view and turn them on and off. You can go here in your print dialog and you can turn them off there as well. But you know what you're trying to print.
Can you make the little paper view guys at the bottom bigger? No. Except if it's RPE.
When they're all letter size or small like that, it does look a little bigger, but because I have overall plans down here that are ANSI E size, it kind of shrinks all of them. So you can see the titles technically, I believe, on here if they were big enough, but they're not, which is why I started using the paper manager. And having this dialog box up and open is really helpful. All right, next. Okay. This is actually a tip I learned from watching some of those CET user conference videos on YouTube. Have you ever needed your CAD plan in color but your furniture in black and white? So this is showing millwork in orange so it doesn't look like furniture. And I also, it's not on here now, I think the CAD plan layer is off. Showing in blue power and data. So when we were doing field checks and things like that, we knew where power and data were slated to go. We can kind of just check it instead of marking where it was at, we're just checking a box. So this is just two viewports layered on top of each other. There's a viewport with your CAD plan and your CAD plan only, which is set in your visibility settings in color. So you have to make your CAD plan all black, but just the layers you need in color, the right color. So I turned everything black except for the millwork. And then your furniture is just your furniture, not your CAD plan, anything like that, and then it's in black and white.
Do they come in exactly placed where they're supposed to?
So when you copy, you can go in and you can snap it there. Or if they get shifted like this, you can use your alignment tool up here to snap them to the corner. So once you do it and you copy it over, it's exactly the same and it should line up. Now if you go into one and you make it unlocked and you zoom in a little more, you're going to have to redo that step. All right.
Yeah, that's the important part.
Yep. And that's why it's important to set it up the way you really want it to look and then filter your visibility settings and then go back in and copy that viewport.
I do that also with red text, and then I'll just show the text in the layer on top of it so
Yep.
red points out things.
Yep, so there's another way to do it. Or you can show just your color coding filled in so that it shows up on the back, that hey, that's your color coding. But you gotta make sure when you're in your viewport here, your elevations, if you're trying to put something behind it, make sure like maybe the one with just the color coding is 0, and then your furniture's at 1. Just make sure your elevation, if it's not showing up just right, check your elevations. More seed file information. So favorites doesn't have to be product. It can be a same block of text that you put on everything. It could be the same block of text you use for certain conditions. A really good example is here in this hospital, we don't put wall track down over cove base. But if you're contracting out your install, you got to make sure they know that. We had some double stack overheads, so that means they got hung even higher. So it was 72 inches above finished floor. But that doesn't go on every page, but it's a favorite. And I was just dropping that text in when that condition came up. So if you have conditions you're using again over and over, the same notes over and over, maybe it's not a title block because it's not the same on every page, you can still use favorites. This is one that I actually discovered in the last class. So if you are in your paper space and you're trying to get a photo to fit, you put your photo in first, then double click. It will auto size your image dimensions to fit what you just drew. And then there's also 3D clipping. Do you guys know about 3D clipping, where you can show just certain parts of your plan? If you're trying to show a wall and it's not showing up, you have to clip the end of the wall. So you can just go way out to the end of that wall, just make sure the end of the wall kind of has that little green box around it and that wall will show up. I think it's the same thing with the flooring that's applied. You have to have 2 corners kind of clipped in your green box, and then the carpet will show up if you've applied a separate flooring on top of just your base carpet. You can also right click down here, like if you've got that set in your paper space and it's the size you need and you're going to copy that paper over and over, well, instead of having to go and draw it again and double click on it again, you can just hit new. You can right click, remove 3D clipping, and then you can start your new 3D clipping. And let's see. Has anyone ever had a drawing open, got something rendered, and then went back later that day, the next day, and the rendering has to be re-rendered again? So I don't know why. This is just a pro tip I found, and it does work. If you just right-click on the picture and rename it anything else. Rename it anything else. It doesn't matter what it is. Just rename it, and it sticks a little longer. I've had some I still have to go back and render, but it's usually like a month later. But that one makes it stick longer. Not entirely sure why. All right. We got some extra tips. So a lot of these were actually things I've already picked up today that I'm just making sure everybody knows. The Tip Tuesday, I hope everybody gets those and sees those. CET does the Tip Tuesday, and you can actually get to that from your CET. You can go out to your My Configura if you want, but it's actually right here. This is your feed from your briefcases. Right here, this little, your briefcase. And this is just the most recent things, but like those Tip Tuesday things will pop up, a little number will pop up right there. And those Tip Tuesdays are really helpful. Refreshers, be like, oh yeah, I forgot it did that, or hey, I didn't know it did that. And then you can copy and paste your article view into AutoCAD, or Excel. Sorry guys, I need another cup of coffee. So you can copy, edit, copy all cells, but understand that the way it shows here is the way it's going to copy into Excel. So that's exactly how it was showing. That's exactly how it's going to copy and paste. So if I go back in here and I expand all this out, again, if I copy and paste, but it's also going to copy whatever columns you show. It's just copying exactly what you see over. So make sure it's copying, like you've got your columns that you want to show, columns you don't, it's either expanded or compact. And they were talking about with 9.5, there will be other ways to import Excel into your drawing. So you can think about using that for install plans or checklists, things like that. So you can take it and you can easily copy it from there into Excel, break down what you want, and you can put that on a page. Or you can put that on your big overall plan. It's however you need to use that. I like to think about those checklists. Our guys don't have to try and read the plan sometimes. They can go and just check. There's 3 Kobe chairs, there's a table, there's a sofa. Done. Move on. The S button is a key binding on your keyboard that toggles between single select and group select. It toggles back and forth, so you can easily use that as you're drawing to select just this chair or the chair and the desk it's attached to. You can also change those snap settings on what things snap to or don't snap to when you're doing dimensions, things like that. You can edit all of that based on what you're really trying to do. You can also categorize dimensions in that category new dialog box. I actually had somebody help me with this in the last class, that if you were in today, so if I was in answer and I was in electrical, if I'm in here and I put dimensions in, it automatically categorizes it as electrical. So when you filter your view settings and you only want to see your dimensions for your electrical, I didn't know that. More to know. But if you put it in the wrong one, I mean your tools and your categorization, you can change where it's tagged for. This is just more filters so you can get the exact view that you want to show. On the component tab configurator, I use this a lot by customer. This is actually what I just had open. So I have ones preset here. The blue ones are preset by CET, and this is kind of also based on which extensions you have. I have it set by customer, so I have this really narrowed down. But this is standards for one of our customers. This is what they use day in and day out. When I got to draw an office, I can do this, and there's not a bunch of stuff in my way. With your schemes, which is also a seed file, no, but you can also drop down and just click, I need that. I need it in Marble Maple before you start drawing, and it's going to start drawing it in those schemes. But it's also the same for over here with your text. If you select it before you start typing, because even if you have 4 or 5 different text styles, you don't have to go in and type it and then, let's see, we type something. You don't have to go in here and change it. After the fact, if you just select it, it's just from going forward. It doesn't change everything on your drawing. It just adds, okay, I'm doing these notes. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do these notes. Now I'm going to go back and do these notes. It's just as you're going, it's an easier way to do that. So you don't have to go back and kind of apply those kind of things. It's intuitive there. The configurator tab. So even when you're in here and you've configured this, so you can copy, you can go into like show all tabs, copy. We're going to create a copy and we're going to pick what we want to show. But once you pick something, even for like Steelcase, then you can go in and say, I only want to show, I don't want to show that. I don't want to show that. Okay, well maybe I do want to show answer, but I don't need to show wiring and cabling. I don't really want to show the how-to. I don't need to show that junction legend. These are good things to do when you're doing live drawing with a customer that really knows what all this is, and you still need those tabs because you really are still drawing, but you can filter things out they don't need to see. If it's not a standard, things like that. The customer that's the hospital, they use universal overheads, so I could go in and filter all the universal laminate out. I can do the lower storage. I can filter all that out so that when I click on that universal tab, it's just the overheads. So you can use that to set up by customer if they've got standards, by a certain project to help you with that. I have also used it by category. I've got lounge seating. I've got casework, because you can do this over multiple manufacturers. So you see I got Steelcase and OFS here. And so does my lounge.
And where do you find that?
Right here. So
How do you get that other box that came up?
So this little thing right here.
Okay.
And then you can, these quick buttons are these things right here. So this blue one is always going to be show all tabs, but then you can preset, once you've built one, you can preset to have it here. So right now my red is accessories. So once I'm done drawing something, I can hit accessories and I can go in and I can start building in those SketchUp files, putting the computers, the photo frames, the magazines, all doing the extra kind of fluff. It's its own tab. I don't have to deal with product anymore. So you can set those up. And you can set these up and you can change them really easily. You can add them. I've done them specifically for certain projects and then I've gone in later and just deleted it because that project's gone and done.
Can you show quickly how to create one of those?
Mm-hmm.
And those you save as favorites?
When you copy all of this, it copies and it saves it kind of as your favorite.
Something you can send, like,
You can share it with, you'll have to copy the file. You can share it with other people in your organization. I think you have to copy the file though. Because in order to delete one, I had to find where it's at. It's in your My CET documents. I think it's under Preferences, and then I think it says Configurator tab, but it's under your My CET documents is where that stuff is saved. I might be able to do that. Maybe not. Preferences, Toolbox. So you see those? So I can go in there and I can delete this one because that was just an example. Or say that project is done, or they've changed their standards, anything like that. Hey, it's not a manufacturer we sell anymore. And then you can also pin your most used tabs at the top. You see up here your tools. So no matter how far down you scroll, tools, walls, materials, anything like that can be pinned at the top.
Do you ever have an issue where it doesn't stick? Sometimes I open a different drawing or a new one and they're all over the place.
I think the only time I've ever really had that problem is like when I close. I use pins more of a what do I need today. So it's more like I don't want to completely do a whole new configuration. This is really just today. And I'll just pin a few things at the top. If it's something like that, when you create these configurations here and you create them, you can also rearrange these. So hey, I want architectural all the way at the bottom. You can drag and drop. So you can put them in the right order that you need them in. But you just click what you need and don't need. And then like I was saying in here for like the steel case, and then you go into a component tab, load the section. So where is that? Answer fence. So all of these right here, where you kind of have these little arrows, are things that you can make kind of hide. You can hide them by using your configurator tool. I don't know if anybody else did not know this. I had a designer in my office not using alternatives quite the same way I do. She was having one typical office and then another typical office, and that's how she was using alternatives, but she didn't have this right here, which is not default, but you only click it once. That's all you have to do, and it's keep the camera position. So you don't have one typical way out over here and then one typical way out over here, and every time you switch by an alternative you got to zoom out, find where it is or whatever. It all kind of keeps it on the same X and Y axis on your plan. Or if you're going between two alternatives and maybe one is one color scheme and one is the other, when you switch between them you're looking the exact same way, you still have it. So you can easily toggle between. I've done that in live design where we're like, this is what it all looks like in walnut, this is what it all looks like in maple. And just toggle back and forth so they can make the decision if they wanted to switch. In your photo lab, this is a tip that I've seen on several of the rendering classes and webinars and tips and tricks from them, and it's something that I wasn't really doing, but I recently did this for a project, and a designer I have been working with for a long time came back and said how amazing the renderings looked and how better they were, and that's how she wanted all her renderings from now on. So you don't need to be doing the bird's eye view. It's the elevation around 72-ish, or you can type it in here, and then changing your pitch. This gets it to be more of a realistic view. And this is more in line with what they're getting renderings from like Revit. So it's a little more apples to apples. And this is in your photo lab under your camera. You got your elevation and your pitch. So elevation and then the pitch. Okay. I highly recommend that everybody does the advanced CET training. It really made what we produced that much better and that much more professional, and really helped us stand out amongst our competition on, hey, maybe this is a special, but guess what? In the advanced training, they showed me how to explode this and make this, and I can show you what that looks like. They also go into calculation views and summaries and things like that. It was absolutely worth the time and money. I highly recommend everybody does that. And that you take the free webinars. There are new webinars every month. On your My Configura, you sign up, you hit register, it'll send you a confirmation, it'll send you a little calendar thing you can easily add to your calendar. I would say to pay attention to which one you're signing up for, because some are for other countries. So if it says 3 a.m., that means it is 3 a.m. because it's another country. But when they have new releases, they'll go through the new stuff. There's been Q&A ones, so if there's really something that you're just like, I just need to go and ask somebody. That's what they're doing. They literally just want you to come on there to ask questions, and then they answer them. They show you. And then use the forums to start discussions and share. If you found a new way to do something, or a hack or something like that, please share. If you've got a question, if you're like, I think it will do this, I don't think this is a feature request, I'm pretty sure it will do this, I just don't know how, this is a place to ask that question. Okay? Are there any questions now?
I know a lot of people use dual monitors. Do you ever break out a secondary window for 3D space compared to your split screen using the secondary view?
I personally don't, because I usually get a little confused as to what, I don't even like doing the split screen on one screen. I usually just toggle back and forth between 2D and 3D. Usually if I'm using the second monitor, it's for my calculation view or for the photo lab or for something like that. Is that it? Come on.
Is there a shortcut to query when you right click on the share and choose the pricing?
No, but I have submitted that as a feature request that I can keybind that as a queue. So if you want that, submit feature request. So I'm not the only one asking. Because right now that's not listed in the things that you can keybind, and I just want the option to be able to keybind that, and I want to be able to keybind that. If I have something selected and I hit queue, it brings up the query box. But things like that, when you find those little things that like, God, this just would make my life so much easier, send those in as feature requests.
I know when we first started using it, we haven't used it very much yet so far, but in the beginning, there was an issue where we were seeing we couldn't mirror the workstation like we could in other programs. Is that something you can do now, or is that a feature request you might be able to?
I think the biggest issue comes in when you do that. It's not always, it's harder to do that with product. Because I mean, when you're in CAD, yeah, you can mirror, but if it's a left-hand or a right-hand product, it's harder to do. I just usually go in there and I'm using either just copying that surface over, because I have a lot of left-hand, right-hand, and you can use component blocks and then blocks and things like that, to where you really only have to build it once and then you're just copying and pasting. Austin went into that in pretty in depth this morning. So if you look at blocks and component blocks, that might help you. So, but mirroring, I don't even know if that's something they would really want to do, because that really gets into, how do you tell it if it's a left hand or a right hand?
Well, like if you're manipulating block, I know you do it forming four numbers in there, but it's not as easy to use in CAD, but exploiting a special block or something that you made up and you just use the modifying right. That's what I use the most.
Yeah, I have mirrored a graphic, but it's not really connected to any sort of part. It's not in my bill of materials. I have been able to mirror just something I built on my own. Any other questions? If you have questions later, use the forum, please.